That baby isn't mine." Adrian said it in front of 12 people, with his mother's best china still on the table and our 2-week-old daughter asleep against my chest. The room did not gasp. That was the first thing I noticed. No one looked surprised. Not his sisters, not his uncle, not his cousin from Denver who had flown in just to meet the baby. Not Vivian, my mother-in-law, who sat at the head of the dining table with her back straight, her pearls glowing against her dark green blouse and a folder already waiting beside her plate. They had known. Or worse, they had been waiting. Adrian slid the DNA report across the table with 2 fingers. The paper stopped in front of me, beside a half-full glass of water I had not touched. "Read it," he said. I did not move. Lily stirred in my arms, her tiny mouth opening for one of those silent newborn cries that break a mother before they make a sound. I tucked the blanket higher around her cheek and kept my eyes on my husband. He looked different that night, not just angry, certain. That certainty hurt more than the accusation. Vivian leaned forward. "Clara," she said, in that soft voice she used whenever she wanted cruelty to sound like manners, "we all think it would be best if you left tonight." I looked at the report, then at Adrian, then at Vivian. The woman had spent 9 months touching my stomach like she owned the child inside me. Now she was looking at my daughter like she was evidence of a crime. My hands were shaking, but my voice was not. "No," I said. Adrian laughed once, short and ugly. "No. No." His sister Brianna crossed her arms. "The test says 0%, Clara." Vivian picked up the folder beside her plate. "The child is not a Whitmore," she said, "and this family will not be manipulated." I could have screamed. I could have begged Adrian to remember the nights he placed his hand on my stomach and whispered Lily's name before she was born. I could have asked him how 2 weeks of fear had erased 5 years of marriage. But I had already learned something. When people build a courtroom around you without warning, the worst thing you can do is argue like a defendant. So I held my daughter, looked at the door behind Vivian, and said nothing. "Before you hear what happened when the lab coordinator walked into that dining room, tell me in the comments. If your husband accused you in front of his entire family, would you defend yourself immediately, or would you wait until the one piece of proof they didn't expect arrived?" Because I waited. Not because I had nothing to say. Because that morning, I had already called the lab. And the woman on the phone had gone very quiet when I read her the sample code. 14 days earlier, I had given birth to Lily in a hospital room washed in pale yellow light. She came at 3:18 in the morning after 19 hours of labor, 6 minutes of panic when her heart rate dropped, and one moment so bright in my memory that everything before it feels like fog. The nurse placed her on my chest, slippery and furious and alive, and Adrian cried. He cried harder than I did. "I'm here," he whispered to her. "Daddy, here." I believed him. That is the cruelest part. People think betrayal destroys trust in the moment it happens, but that isn't true. The moment is only the explosion. The real damage comes later, when your mind walks backward through every tender memory and asks which ones were real. Adrian and I had been married for 5 years. He had once been careful with me. He remembered small things, waited when I was afraid, and made steadiness look like love. That was why I married him. Vivian was the shadow I tried to ignore. She had been widowed for 12 years and treated Adrian less like a son than a life's work. Every success he had belonged to her first. Every decision he made needed her blessing. At first, I brought flowers, asked for recipes, and smiled through corrections that sounded like affection if you were tired enough. Then I learned Vivian did not want a daughter-in-law. She wanted access. When I became pregnant, her ownership became sharper. She called the baby our little girl, posted ultrasound pictures without asking, bought nursery furniture I had not chosen, and placed her hand on my stomach at Sunday dinner like she was checking property lines. "She just wants to be involved," Adrian said. "I want to be respected." He sighed like respect was a complicated request. The first real change came 3 weeks before Lily was born. Adrian started coming home late. Not dramatically late, just 20 minutes, then 40, then an hour. He said work was intense. His company was reorganizing. His mother was anxious. I was too tired to chase every explanation. Then one night, I woke at 2:11 a.m. and found him sitting on the edge of the bed, phone glowing in his hand. He locked the screen when he saw me. "Everything okay?" I asked. "Yeah," he said too quickly. "Mom's just nervous about the baby." At the time, I believed him because I wanted the last weeks of my pregnancy to be peaceful. Peace can make cowards of us if we purchase it with truth. The week Lily was born, Vivian visited the hospital 3 times. The first time, she cried. The second time, she rearranged the flowers and told the nurse Adrian's family had strong genes. The third time, she arrived while I was asleep and asked Adrian if the baby looked a little different to him. I know because the nurse told me later. "She said it like a joke," the nurse said carefully, "but I didn't like it." Neither did I. When I asked Adrian, his face closed. She was emotional. She questioned whether our daughter looks like you. She didn't mean it that way. How did she mean it? He walked to the window and said nothing. That was the first time I felt the floor shift under my marriage. Not collapse. Shift. 2 days after we came home, Vivian arrived with soup, diapers, and a sharp look that moved from my face to Lily's. She held the baby for 12 minutes and spent 10 of them studying her. "She has your mouth," she said. I smiled. "Maybe." Vivian's gaze flicked to Adrian. "Only your mouth." Adrian looked down. That night he was quiet while washing bottles. I stood beside him, wearing the same robe for the 3rd day in a row, my body aching in places I did not know could ache, milk leaking through my shirt, hair unwashed, heart cracked open by love and exhaustion. "Do you think she looks like you?" he asked. The bottle slipped slightly in my hand. "What?" "Lily." I stared at him. "Adrian." "I'm just asking." "No," I said, "you're not." He turned off the water. "I know she's mine." But he did not say it like a man who knew. He said it like a man trying to hear himself say it. On Lily's 10th day of life, Adrian said he needed to run errands. He took her diaper bag by mistake. That would have meant nothing except when he returned. The small hospital comb with strands of her hair was missing from the side pocket. I asked about it. He frowned. I didn't see a comb. Maybe he hadn't. Maybe I was tired. Maybe every woman with a newborn becomes a detective because sleep deprivation makes the world feel guilty. But that same evening, Vivian called and asked if Lily had been fussy. "How would you know?" Adrian looked up from the couch. Vivian paused. "I just assumed. New bobbies are fussy." Her voice had a crack in it. Small. But I heard it. On the 12th day, Adrian received an email while we were eating breakfast. He read it, went pale, and left the room. I followed him. He was in the hallway, one hand pressed against the wall. "What is going on?" I asked. He looked at me, then with an expression I had never seen from him before. Fear mixed with accusation. "Nothing. Don't lie to me." His face hardened. I said nothing. That night, he slept in the guest room. On the 13th day, Vivian invited us to Sunday dinner. "Everyone wants to meet Lily properly," she said on the phone. "Just family." I almost said no. I wish I had. But when you are 2 weeks postpartum, the world keeps asking you to be polite while you are still bleeding. You say yes to avoid another argument. You pack the baby bag. You wear the loose blue dress that does not hurt your stitches. You put concealer under your eyes and pretend your hands are steady. At 4:36 p.m., while Adrian loaded Lily's carrier into the car, I saw the corner of a paper sticking out from the side pocket of his blazer. A lab receipt. Not the report. Just a receipt. Northline Genetic Services. Sample ID, NG4172B. I remembered it because numbers calm me. They always have. Before teaching elementary school, I studied biology for 2 years. Lab codes, specimen labels, chain of custody forms, those things stayed in my head because they made sense in ways people often did not. NG4172B. I did not say anything. During the drive, Adrian held the steering wheel like it might confess before I did. Vivian's house was already full when we arrived. That was wrong. Sunday dinners were usually 8 people. That night there were 12. His sisters, their husbands, Uncle Robert, Cousin Mark from Denver, Vivian's neighbor who was basically family, and Adrian's godmother. Everyone turned when I stepped inside with Lily. Not with excitement. With expectation. My stomach went cold. Vivian kissed Adrian first. Then Lily's forehead. Then the air beside my cheek. "Dinner is ready," she said. The table looked staged. Roast chicken, potatoes, green beans, rolls, wine glasses, cloth napkins folded like little white flags. At my place setting, there was no wine glass, just water. A small mercy. Or a reminder. For 37 minutes, they let me eat while knowing why I was there. That detail matters. They passed rolls. They asked about Lily's feeding schedule. Vivian told a story about Adrian as a baby. Brianna complimented Lily's blanket without looking at me. Adrian barely touched his food. I counted the minutes because the clock on Vivian's wall faced me. At 5:41, Vivian set down her fork. "Adrian," she said. He closed his eyes, then opened them. He reached into the inside pocket of his blazer and removed the folded report. The room fell into a silence, so prepared it felt rehearsed. He slid the paper across the table. "That baby isn't mine." And there we were. The report said probability of paternity, 0%. It showed Adrian Whitmore as the tested alleged father. It showed Lily Whitmore as the tested child. It showed the sample date as 4 days earlier. It showed the sample ID as NG4172B. That was when the fear inside me changed shape. Because I had seen the hospital discharge paperwork. Lily's newborn screening number ended in 9. Her pediatric blood card ended in 9. Every sample taken from her in the hospital had been logged under a matching medical identifier that followed her temporary newborn record until her permanent insurance card came through. NG4172B did not match anything I had ever seen connected to my daughter. Maybe private labs used different codes. Maybe I was clinging to nothing. But then I saw Vivian's hand. She was gripping her napkin in her lap, twisting it so tightly her knuckles shone white. Adrian was angry. Vivian was afraid. That difference saved me. "I want you out tonight," Adrian said. I looked at him. "Our daughter needs to sleep." His face twitched. "Don't call her that." Something inside me went very still. Not broken. Still. Vivian leaned forward. "Clara, we can do this quietly if you cooperate. You can stay with your friend Marin. Adrian will handle legal steps tomorrow." Legal steps. She had scripts ready. Adrian's godmother murmured, "Poor boy. Poor boy." My body was still healing from bringing his child into the world, and he was the boy they pitied. I looked down at Lily. She was awake now, blinking up at me with those dark, unfocused newborn eyes, innocent of every adult failure surrounding her. I stood. Adrian stood too. "Where are you going?" "To change her." Vivian's voice sharpened. "The bathroom is down the hall." "I know." I walked slowly because my legs were trembling. No one stopped me. In the hallway bathroom, I locked the door, sat on the closed toilet lid, and held Lily against me while my whole body shook without sound. I did not cry. Crying would come later. Maybe. I pulled out my phone and took a photo of the report through the bathroom door gap, where I had folded it into my palm. My fingers zoomed in on the sample ID. NG4172B. Then I searched Northline Genetic Services and called the after-hours number printed on the receipt I had glimpsed earlier. A woman answered on the 5th ring. Northline After-Hours Support. My name is Clara Whitmore, I whispered. My husband received a paternity report for our newborn daughter. I need to verify the sample information. I'm sorry, ma'am. We can't release results over the phone without authorization. I'm not asking for results. I'm asking whether a sample code belongs to a minor child named Lily Whitmore. There was a pause. Do you have the report number? I read what I could see from the photo. The woman typed. Behind the bathroom door, I heard a chair scrape in the dining room. Ma'am, she said carefully, are you the child's mother? Yes. Were you present when the child's sample was collected? No. More typing. The silence changed. Ma'am, I need you to stay available at this number. My mouth went dry. Why? I can't discuss details yet, but this report has already been flagged for review. Flagged? The word went through me like a match in a dark room. By who? I'm escalating to our coordinator. I'm at my mother-in-law's house. They're using this report to force me out. The woman's voice softened, but became firmer. Do not sign anything tonight. Do not surrender the child to anyone based on that report. Keep your phone on. A knock hit the door. Clara, Adrian said, open up. I looked at Lily, then at myself in the mirror. Pale face, loose hair, a woman accused in a house full of witnesses. The woman on the phone said, Ma'am, I have to go. Stay reachable. Someone will contact you immediately. I ended the call and opened the bathroom door. Adrian stood outside, his face tight. What were you doing? Changing Lily. You were on the phone. Yes. With who? I stepped past him. The truth, I said. He grabbed my wrist. Not hard enough to bruise. Hard enough to remind me he thought he could. I looked down at his hand. He let go. Back in the dining room, Vivian was standing. This has gone on long enough, she said. You need to leave. I sat down instead. The room stared. Lily made a small sound, and I rocked her gently. No, I said again. Adrian slammed his palm on the table. The test says she isn't mine. I met his eyes. Then you should be willing to wait for the lab to confirm it. Vivian's face changed. Only for a second. But I saw it. Brianna said, why would the lab need to confirm its own test? That's what I'd like to know, I said. Vivian's hand moved to the folder beside her plate. I watched it. That was when I knew the folder had more than the report. If you were Clara, sitting in that room with your newborn in your arms, would you leave to protect your peace, or stay long enough to make sure every witness heard the truth from someone official? I stayed. Not because I was brave. Because leaving would have let Vivian tell the ending. And I was done living inside stories that woman wrote for me. The next 20 minutes stretched like wire. Adrian paced near the window. His uncle muttered about modern women. Brianna texted under the table. Vivian kept glancing toward the front door, then at her phone, then at the report, as if she could will paper to stay true. At 6:17 p.m., my phone rang. Unknown number. The entire table turned toward the sound. I answered on speaker. This is Clara. Mrs. Whitmore, this is Dr. Melissa Grant, Sample Integrity Coordinator at Northline Genetic Services. Are you in a safe location to speak? Vivian stood so fast her chair struck the wall. Adrian froze. I looked at him. Yes, I said, you're on speaker. A pause. Are other parties to the report present? Yes. Then I will keep this limited. I am outside the address listed on the intake form. May I come in? Vivian's face went gray. No one moved. The doorbell rang. One clear sound through the house. Lily startled and began to cry. I stood with her. I'll get it, I said. Adrian whispered, Clara. But he did not tell me to stop. I walked to the front door with 12 pairs of eyes behind me and my daughter crying against my shoulder. When I opened it, a woman in a navy coat stood on the porch holding a sealed folder and a clipboard. Her blonde hair was pulled back tight, and rain dotted the shoulders of her coat, even though the sky had only just turned dark. Mrs. Whitmore. Yes. I'm Dr. Melissa Grant. Her eyes moved to Lily, then softened for half a second. I'm sorry to disturb you at home, but this could not wait until morning. I stepped aside. Please come in. When she entered the dining room, the atmosphere changed immediately. Not because she was loud. Because she was calm. Calm people with folders fright liars more than angry people with accusations. Vivian lifted her chin. This is a private family matter. Dr. Grant looked at her. Not if my lab's report is being used based on a compromised sample. Adrian's face drained. What does that mean? Dr. Grant placed the sealed folder on the table. It means the paternity report you received should not be treated as valid. Brianna whispered, What? Vivian said, That's impossible. Dr. Grant turned toward her. Mrs. Whitmore, are you Vivian Whitmore? Vivian's mouth opened. Closed. Yes. Then, I need to ask why your name appears as the submitting party for a child's sample you were not legally authorized to collect. The room went silent. Adrian looked at his mother. What? Vivian put a hand to her throat. I was helping. You submitted a child sample under Lily Whitmore's name on Tuesday at 9:12 a.m. The intake form states the sample was collected by the mother. That is false. Mom, Adrian said. Vivian looked at him, then at me. She was destroying you. Not denying it. Explaining it. That was the moment everyone understood there was a difference. Dr. Grant opened the folder. The sample labeled as Lily Whitmore did not come from Lily Whitmore. Internal review was triggered because the genetic profile conflicted with later newborn verification. The original report is void. Adrian stared at the paper. Void? Yes. His suspicion disappeared, but love did not return in its place. Fear did. Dr. Grant removed a second document. There is also a corrected result. Vivian's head snapped up. No. That one word was all I needed. Dr. Grant slid the page toward Adrian. Mr. Whitmore submitted his own sample directly at our center on Wednesday. That sample was valid. With emergency parental consent and hospital-authorized newborn reference verification, the corrected probability of paternity is 99.9998%. No one spoke. The roast chicken sat cooling in the center of the table. Vivian's candles burned lower. Lily's crying softened into small hiccups against my shoulder. Adrian sank into his chair. She's mine, he whispered. I looked at him. No, I said quietly. She's ours, and tonight you forgot that. His face crumpled. Clara. Don't. One word. It stopped him like a hand against his chest. Vivian stared at Dr. Grant. You had no right to come here. I had an obligation to prevent misuse of an invalid medical report involving a newborn child. I was protecting my son, Vivian snapped. From his daughter, I asked. Her hatred turned toward me, naked and steady. You trapped him. Adrian stood. Mom, stop. No, she said, turning on him. You were miserable. You told me you felt disconnected. I saw a way to make sure you didn't lose your whole life to a woman who never respected this family. Every sentence revealed more than she meant to. Adrian whispered, You switched the sample. Vivian's lips pressed together. I gave them what they needed to see. Dr. Grant lifted her clipboard. I am required to document this conversation. Mrs. Clara Whitmore, I recommend you contact your pediatrician and legal counsel regarding unauthorized sample submission. Legal counsel. The room heard it. Vivian did too. Her face went pale. Clara, Adrian said, please, we can talk. I looked at the man who had held my daughter after birth and called himself Daddy. Then at the man who, 1 hour earlier, told me not to call her his. Both were real. That was the tragedy. I begged you for weeks to choose us over your mother's doubts, I said. You chose the report she handed you. I didn't know. You didn't ask. He flinched. You didn't ask who collected the sample. You didn't ask why I wasn't present. You didn't ask why your mother had a folder ready before I arrived. You didn't ask how a 2-week-old baby became evidence at a dinner table. My voice stayed calm. That was what frightened him most. You believed the version of me that made it easier to throw me away. His eyes filled. I'm sorry. I know. But sorry is a sound. It becomes something only when followed by action, and I no longer had the energy to wait for Adrian to become brave. Dr. Grant handed me copies of the invalidation notice and corrected result. These are yours, she said. Your pediatrician will receive confirmation tonight. Thank you. Her voice softened. I'm sorry this happened here. I looked around dining room. So am I. Stood again. You are not taking my granddaughter out of this house. The words came too late. Everyone heard the shift. My granddaughter. Not that baby. Not the child. Hers, now that proof had made Lily useful again. I held Lily closer. Adrian stepped between us. Mom, stop. Stared at him. After everything I did for you. That sentence explained their whole family. Love as debt. Sacrifice as leash. Motherhood as ownership. I walked to the entryway and picked up the diaper bag. Adrian followed. Where are you going? To. Let me drive you. No. It's raining. I know. The last time I had accepted his protection, he used it as a stage for my humiliation. He looked down. What happens tomorrow? I adjusted Lily's blanket. Tomorrow I call a lawyer. His face tightened, but he nodded. I deserve that. Maybe he did. Maybe he didn't understand, yet that deserving was no longer the point. I walked out of house at p.m. with my daughter in my arms, 2 official documents in my bag, and my marriage behind me at a dining table full of cold food and witnesses. Arrived 7 minutes later. She did not ask questions in the driveway. She got out of her car, wrapped her coat around my shoulders, looked at Lily and said, I've got you. That was when I finally cried. Not because Adrian had accused me. Not because had tried to erase my daughter. Because someone said, I've got you, and meant it without paperwork. The next morning, the calls began. Adrian called first at. Then. I did not answer. Called at. I blocked her. At my pediatrician confirmed that Lily's medical record had been protected and flagged. At Dr. Grant emailed the full invalidation letter. At I sat across from a family attorney named Rachel while Lily slept in a carrier beside my chair. Rachel read the documents twice. Then she looked at me. Do you want the soft version or the real version? The real one. Your mother-in-law created a serious problem for herself. Your husband created a serious problem for your marriage. I laughed once. It came out broken. Rachel's expression stayed kind but direct. We can file for temporary custody terms, restrict unauthorized medical decisions, and document the incident. Whether you pursue anything else is your choice. Choice? After a night of people trying to decide my life around a dining table, the word felt almost unreal. What if Adrian fights me? Then he fights the documents. That sentence did more for me than any comfort could have. Documents do not shake. Documents do not get postpartum exhaustion. Documents do not apologize too early because the room feels tense. Documents sit there and tell the same truth every time. By noon, Adrian sent one text. I failed you. I failed Lily. I'm going to stay at a hotel and give you space. I told my mother not to contact you. I read it while Lily slept against my chest. For a long time, I felt nothing. Then grief arrived, slow and heavy. Because I had wanted him to be better before proof forced him to. That is a particular kind of heartbreak, realizing someone can recognize the truth only after hurting you with a lie. 3 days later, Adrian came to house with a bag of baby clothes, my medication, and the bassinet from our bedroom. He stood on the porch looking like he had not slept. I did not invite him in. He did not ask. My mother admitted she used a sample from daughter, he said quietly. She thought if it showed I wasn't the father, I'd leave before getting attached. There it was. Not science. Not confusion. Strategy. Adrian placed the bag on the porch. I started therapy, he said. I called Rachel office. I told them I won't contest temporary custody terms. That was the first action that sounded like an apology. Good, I said. He nodded, tears in his eyes. I love you. I love her. I know. Is there any way back? A week earlier, I would have answered with hope. That day, I answered with honesty. I don't know. For the first time, he accepted uncertainty without asking me to comfort him. Did not accept anything. She sent flowers. I returned them. She wrote a letter saying she had acted out of fear. My attorney kept it. She tried calling. Told her, if you contact this house again, I'll make sure the next person you explain yourself to wears a badge. Had always been better at direct sentences than me. 2 weeks later, we had the first temporary custody hearing. Adrian sat across the room with his attorney, was not there. Rachel had made sure of that. The judge read the summary quietly. Unauthorized sample submission. Invalidated paternity report. Family confrontation. Corrected result. Newborn child. Then she removed her glasses and looked at Adrian. Mister, do you understand why the court is concerned? Yes, Your Honor. His voice was low. She turned to me. Mrs., are you requesting sole temporary medical decision-making? Yes. Based on the documents, granted until further review. Just like that. No shouting. No family vote. No at the head of the table. Just a judge, a file, and the truth. Adrian did not fight it. Afterward, in the hallway, he stopped a few feet away from me. Thank you for letting me see Lily yesterday. She deserves a father who shows up safely. I'm trying. I hope you keep trying when no one is watching. He understood the warning. Maybe that was progress. Maybe it was only pain learning new manners. Was not allowed near Lily. That boundary held. Not because respected me. Because official paper made disrespect expensive. Sometimes that is what protection looks like. Not forgiveness. Documentation. Months later, the legal papers still mattered. Vivian was not allowed near Lily without my permission. Adrian followed the temporary terms, went to therapy, and learned that apologies are not words you say when the room gets uncomfortable. They are actions repeated when no one is clapping. I did not promise him a happy ending. I promised my daughter a safe one. People ask what the revenge was. They expect me to say it was the lab report, or the custody order, or Vivian dropping those papers in front of everyone. But that was not the revenge. The revenge was walking out with my daughter and not asking permission. It was letting official proof speak while I saved my breath for the child who needed me. It was refusing to confuse being calm with being available for harm. Vivian wanted me to scream, so she could call me unstable. Adrian wanted the report to make his fear respectable. The family wanted my silence to mean guilt. Instead, my silence made room for the truth to arrive on its own feet, wearing a navy coat, holding a sealed folder, and asking one simple question. Who switched the sample? Subscribe to Silent Revenge Stories if you believe silence is not weakness. Sometimes it is evidence waiting for the right room. And sometimes, the person who says nothing is not losing. She is listening for the doorbell.